The scream didn't sound human. It tore through the sky, like metal ripping in half. Every Avenger froze except Spider-Man, because he had heard that scream once before. The day he lost the one person he couldn't save. The day the universe took someone from him forever. Now the scream was back, louder, closer, angrier. And Spider-Man whispered the name no one expected. The sky over New York cracked before anyone realized what was happening. One moment the city was breathing in its usual rhythm. Sirens, honking cars, the low thunder of a metropolis alive. The next moment, a vibration rolled through the clouds, so deep it felt like the air had a heartbeat. Spider-Man perched on the ledge of a 50-story building, listening. He sensed the disturbance before any sensor, before any satellite, before even Dr. Strange's wards reacted. Something ancient was moving. The Avengers had been tracking strange cosmic noise for days. Short bursts of energy that flickered across the edges of reality like dying stars. Nothing consistent, nothing dangerous, just enough for Tony's old monitoring systems to send automated alerts. Everyone assumed it was just another dimensional hiccup, maybe a stray anomaly, maybe one of Strange's spells humming in the background. Nothing serious, but Peter knew better. A cold shiver crawled up his spine, not from danger, but from recognition. His spider sense wasn't just warning him, it was remembering. Like a scar buried deep beneath the skin, suddenly burning open. He leaned forward, narrowing his eyes at the clouds twisting into unnatural shapes. Lightning flickered with no thunder. The city lights dimmed for a fraction of a second, just long enough to make every electronic device in a 5-mile radius glitch. Then the scream came. It started as a strange metallic hum, like steel grinding against bone. Then it exploded into the air, slicing through the night with a force that made the buildings tremble. Windows rattled, street lights flickered, birds dropped from the sky, spiraling downward like broken toys. People froze in the streets, clutching their heads. Dogs howled. Car alarms went off all at once. Even the Avengers, spread across the city on separate assignments, felt the sound like a punch to the chest. But Spider-Man didn't move. His body locked. His breath vanished. His heartbeat stuttered. Because he had heard that scream before. He had replayed it in nightmares, in memories, in every moment of quiet where his guilt tried to suffocate him. The scream belonged to someone he lost, someone the universe ripped away right in front of him while he stood helpless, fingers slipping from their hand, unable to save them. The air around Peter thinned. He felt like he was falling even though he stood still. The city blurred. All he could hear was that scream mixing with the echo of the past. He whispered, barely audible even to himself, "No, not again." Before he could react, the comms in his mask burst to life. Thor's voice boomed through static, demanding a report. Captain Marvel asked if it was an attack. Strange muttered something about dimensional rupture frequencies. Every Avenger was shouting over each other. Peter didn't answer. He swung off the building, webbing into the air so fast the wind ripped past him like a blade. His heart hammered as he raced toward the center of the disturbance, Times Square, now drowned in flickering lights and rising panic. Another pulse of energy blasted outward, knocking billboards offline and sending digital screens into static. The scream hit again, shorter, sharper, more like a plea than a warning. And it wasn't coming from a monster. It wasn't coming from an attack. It was a voice, a familiar one. Peter landed on a rooftop just as a glowing crack, thin as a knife slice in the fabric of reality, began spreading open in the sky. Inside the crack, shifting shapes twisted like shadows drowning in starlight. Something or someone was trying to push through. Peter stared at the widening tier, breathing hard, every instinct screaming at him to run, to fight, to do something. But all he could think was, how is this possible? You're gone. You can't be alive. Yet the scream was unmistakable. And it was calling his name. The tear in the sky widened like a wound being forced open from the inside. Golden sparks bled into the darkness, swirling like burning snow. The sound wasn't just a scream anymore. It was layered, broken, like two voices trying to speak through one throat. Peter could barely breathe as he watched it pulse, each contraction ripping more of the sky apart. He felt the Avengers approaching long before they landed. Shocks of energy, ripples in the air, the weight of their combined power descending behind him. But none of it pulled his eyes away from the shimmering crack above. Someone reached his side. A heavy hand landed on his shoulder. Thor's voice rumbled through the chaos, trying to anchor him. "Spider-Man, what manner of creature calls with such agony?" Peter didn't answer. Couldn't answer. His throat felt locked. Another pulse erupted from the tear, sending a shockwave across the rooftops. Thor braced, planting his feet. Captain Marvel flared with energy, absorbing the blast. Strange raised a glowing sigil in front of them to shield the team. But Peter simply stood there, unmoving, as if rooted to the spot. Because within that blast, he heard the voice again. This time clearer. Peter. Just one word, but it hit him harder than any blow he'd ever taken. His knees nearly buckled. Strange's eyes snapped to him instantly. "You know this presence," he stated, not a question, but an accusation. Peter forced himself to blink. I don't know what I know," he whispered. It was a lie, and the tremble in his voice exposed it. The tear convulsed again. This time, something pressed against the inside, a silhouette, vaguely human, but contorted like it was fighting against invisible chains wrapped around its limbs. Its fingers clawed at the opening, leaving trails of burning light on the edges of the crack. The scream deepened, becoming more desperate, echoing across every reflective surface in the city like an endless plea. People down on the streets froze in terror. Some collapsed. Some stared up with phones recording, not realizing just how close they were to something catastrophic. Captain Marvel hovered upward, glowing brighter. "I'm going in," she said. Peter's hand shot out before she could move. No, the panic in his voice startled her enough to stop midair. She narrowed her eyes. Why? But Peter's answer was drowned out as the tear exploded outward. A wave of distorted light shredded through the cloud layer. Buildings flickered like glitched textures in a broken video game. Peter felt reality twist for a split second, as if gravity forgot which direction it was supposed to pull. And then a figure fell out of the tear. It wasn't falling exactly, more like being pushed. The body tumbled through the air, spinning, tangled in strands of floating crimson energy that looked like torn muscle fibers. Their skin was pale, cracked with glowing lines that pulsed like veins feeding on cosmic fire. Their hair whipped around wildly, and their eyes, when they opened, flashed a color Peter had only seen once before. He knew those eyes. He knew them too well. His chest tightened, so suddenly he almost gasped. The figure hit the rooftop hard, skidding across the gravel, leaving scorch marks in their wake. Thor stepped forward, Mjolnir raised, ready for a battle. Captain Marvel charged up. Strange prepared a binding spell. But Peter sprinted first. He slid to his knees beside the fallen figure, hands trembling. The person's breathing was shallow, ragged, their voice fractured like broken glass. "Peter, help me." And there it was, the confirmation he feared more than any monster or threat the universe could create. Someone he had buried in his heart, someone he had mourned, someone he had sworn he would never see again, had just dropped out of a dimension that should never have touched theirs. Peter's mask retracted, revealing eyes full of disbelief, grief, and terror all at once. "No," he whispered, voice cracking. "You can't be alive, you can't." But the figure weakly grabbed his wrist. "I wasn't supposed to come back." Their gaze locked onto his, hollow and terrified. "Something followed me." Peter felt the words hit him like a second shockwave. "Something followed me." His breath caught, and for a moment the entire city seemed to fall silent around them. The person in his arms trembled violently, their skin flickering between human and something else, something infected by whatever dimension they had escaped. Strange moved closer, cloak fluttering with restless energy. "Step aside, Peter. They're unstable. Their body is resonating with residual dimensional corruption. If we don't contain them..." "No," Peter snapped, tightening his grip protectively. "You contain a threat. They're not a threat." Even as he said it, the figure spasmed, electricity crackling under their skin. spreading through their veins like living lightning. Their eyes rolled back, glowing with an unnatural red shimmer. The rooftop trembled beneath them, gravel lifting into the air as if gravity was starting to malfunction again. Thor raised his hammer. Their presence brings imbalance. If some horror pursues them, we must prepare for battle. Peter shook his head, desperation rising like fire in his chest. Just give them a second. They're scared. Captain Marvel hovered nearby, her fists burning with contained power. Peter, look at them. That's not just fear. Something is eating them from the inside. And it was true. Their body was beginning to fracture, tiny cracks forming on their skin, leaking threads of crimson light like the universe itself was bleeding through them. Each breath looked painful, shaky, as if inhaling air was a battle. Peter tried to steady them. Listen to me. You're safe now. You're here. You're back. Their fingers dug into his wrist weakly. I shouldn't have come back. Why? Peter whispered, heart pounding. Their voice trembled. Because it followed my scream. Strange froze. His eyes widened with realization. Oh no. Peter looked up sharply. What does that mean? Strange didn't answer immediately. He stepped toward the tear in the sky, observing the collapsing edges. Their scream wasn't only a call for help. It was a beacon, a location signal. Something in that dimension uses sound as a tracking method. And now, another vibration rolled through the air, deep, predatory. Now it knows exactly where they are. The sky darkened instantly. Clouds twisted, spiraling inward like giant hands squeezing the heavens. The remaining fragments of the dimensional tear pulsed violently, stretching open again even though it should have been closing. A bone-rattling growl reverberated through the atmosphere, a sound so deep that windows shattered in the streets below. People screamed and ran in every direction. Sirens wailed. Helicopters spun out of control. All around the city, electronics died as something immense approached. The figure in Peter's arms seized up, their back arching painfully. It's here, they choked. Peter, run. Please. Run. Peter didn't move. He placed a steadying hand on their cheek. I'm not leaving you. You don't understand, they whispered, tears mixing with the cracks glowing across their face. It wants you. Peter felt a chill freeze his spine. Strange spread his hands, conjuring a massive shield of golden light. Thor lifted Mjolnir, electricity crackling around him. Captain Marvel blasted upward toward the forming darkness. But before they could even strike, the air in front of Peter split open like wet fabric being torn apart. A long, skeletal hand, composed of shadow mist, and something that looked disturbingly organic, slid out of the rift. Its fingers ended in dripping tendrils of black energy, stretching toward the figure Peter held. Toward Peter himself. The figure's breath hitched. Don't let it touch you, they cried. Peter didn't hesitate. He leaped backward, webbing pulling him and the figure away just as the creature's hand slammed into the rooftop, melting the gravel instantly. The building shuddered under the impact. Strange shouted, blasting the creature with a beam of light. Thor hurled his hammer. Captain Marvel dive-bombed from above. None of it mattered. The creature wasn't aiming for them. It was hunting the scream, and it wasn't going to stop until it had both of them. The creature didn't move like anything from Earth or any universe the Avengers had ever seen. It didn't walk. It didn't crawl. It slid, as if reality itself bent to clear a path for it. Its body was a shifting mass of shadow and bone-like structures that never stayed in the same shape for more than a second. Every time it pulsed, the rooftop cracked beneath it, metal bending as if afraid. Peter landed hard on a lower rooftop with the figure in his arms, skidding across the surface. Stay with me, he begged, brushing hair from their face. They were getting worse. Glowing fractures now spreading down their neck, branching like cracks in a dying star. Above them, the Avengers unleashed everything they had. Thor brought down a bolt of lightning, so intense it lit up half a city. Captain Marvel slammed into the creature with a sonic boom. Strange carved glowing sigils in the air, creating chains of pure golden light that shot toward the monstrosity. Nothing hurt it. The chains evaporated before touching it. lightning bent around it, warping into harmless arcs. Captain Marvel hit something that felt like a void, crashing into a billboard below. The creature finally spoke, not with a voice, with a vibration. A vibration Peter felt through his bones, a deep, guttural resonance that translated into one word inside his head: mine. The figure in his arms screamed, clutching their chest. It marked me. It marked you too. That day when I tried to save you, it saw you. Peter's heart slammed against his ribs. What do you mean it saw me? I wasn't pulled into the dimension. You were. They shook their head weakly. It doesn't need to take you. It just needs to hear you. Your voice, your breath, your scream. Peter froze. The creature wasn't just hunting them. It was hunting him. A massive shadow fell over the rooftop as the creature descended, slipping through layers of air like smoke diving underwater. Its form expanded, splitting into tendrils stretching across the building, searching, tasting the air with a horrible intelligence. Each tendril emitted a low hum, scanning for the familiar sound it wanted. The sound of Peter Parker's fear. Strange teleported beside him, panting. We have to sever their connection. If it keeps tracking them, it will tear the city apart. Thor landed with a crash, Mjolnir sparking. Tell me how to smite this abomination. You can't, Strange snapped. It exists partially outside our dimension. Physical attacks won't matter. Captain Marvel rose again, face bruised but determined. Then what will matter? Strange's gaze locked onto Peter. Peter felt dread twist his stomach. Don't look at me like that. You're the key, Strange said. It's hunting your frequency, your resonance. If we mask your signature, we can buy time. Mask, Peter stammered. With what? Strange didn't answer with words. He lifted his hand, and golden runes began forming around Peter's chest, circling him like glowing rings. The figure in Peter's arms struggled suddenly, gripping his shirt. No, don't. If you hide him, it will rage. It will destroy everything until it hears him again. Peter swallowed hard. Then what do I do? Fight it? Call it? Let it catch me? The building shook violently as the creature landed on the rooftop behind them. Its central mass formed into something resembling a head, hollow eye sockets dripping with shadow like ink. The vibration came again. Mine. Peter stood up slowly, lifting the injured figure with him. He had never felt so terrified, not even when fighting Thanos, not even when facing death itself. This fear was deeper, because this monster wasn't trying to kill him. It was trying to claim him. He turned to Strange. Mask me. Strange froze. Peter. Do it, Peter said, voice shaking but firm. Mask me. Hide me. Then get them. He looked at the trembling figure in his arms, somewhere safe. The creature lurched forward. Strange's hands blazed with golden light. The figure clutched Peter desperately. Peter, once you disappear from its senses, it will tear open every building in this city to find you. Peter looked at them and whispered, I know. And Strange released the spell. Strange's spell ignited like a sun, exploding behind Peter's ribs. Rings of golden glyphs wrapped around his chest, then tightened, sinking into his suit, vanishing beneath the fabric. For one horrifying second, Peter felt his heartbeat stop, as if the world had muted him entirely. Then came the silence, a suffocating silence that wasn't the absence of sound. It was the absence of him. His presence, his voice, his energy, everything that made him detectable, vanished. The spell erased him from the creature's senses like ink being wiped clean from paper. The monster reacted instantly. It reeled back, its body convulsing, tendrils flailing wildly across the rooftop. The air vibrated with its fury. Buildings trembled. Windows exploded down the street. The entire skyline flickered, as if the city were a candle struggling not to go out. Strange grabbed the weakened figure Peter had protected. We have seconds before it realizes what happened, he warned. Peter stared at them one last time. The person he thought he'd lost forever. The voice he'd heard in nightmares, now standing before him cracked, glowing, broken. They reached for him, but their hand passed through him like he was a ghost. The spell had already started distancing him from reality. "Peter," they cried, choking on panic. "It will kill them. It will kill everyone looking for you." Peter stepped back, chest tight. "I know." Captain Marvel zipped to Strange's side, helping him lift the collapsing figure. Thor moved to hold off the creature as long as he could. "You have to run," Strange urged. "Right now, before it senses you through the cracks." Peter turned away, and the creature screamed. A raw, soul-tearing vibration that shook the clouds, split the sky, and sent a shockwave rolling across the rooftops like a hurricane. Its scream wasn't calling anymore, it was enraged. Violent, animalistic, every tendril lashed outward, stabbing into buildings, ripping through concrete, searching, hunting, dragging entire chunks of rooftops down into the streets. But it couldn't sense Peter. It could only sense where he had been, and that was enough to plunge the entire block into chaos. Peter launched himself off the rooftop, webbing into the darkness, as the spell muffled the sound of his own movement. He felt invisible, intangible, as if he were slipping between the breaths of the world. He swung through narrow alleyways, past collapsing structures, past terrified civilians sprinting through the streets. Behind him, the creature leaped from rooftop to rooftop, each impact cratering the surface. It crushed water towers, shattered steel beams, snapped antennas like twigs. Every place Peter touched minutes earlier now burned under the creature's relentless search. Strange's voice echoed faintly through the comms. "Peter, head south." The spell's fading faster than expected. Of course it was. Strange had cast it under pressure, and Peter was vibrating with adrenaline, instinct, and terror, all things the creature hunted. As Peter swung around a skyscraper, the spell flickered. For 1/2 second, his presence flashed into the universe again, and the creature felt it. A spear of darkness ripped through the air, slicing the building beside him clean in half. Glass rained down like a waterfall of knives. Peter barely dodged the collapsing structure, webbing himself between two beams as the skyscraper groaned and fell behind him. The creature howled, the entire city shaking under the force of its fury. Peter climbed to a rooftop, chest heaving, legs trembling. He looked back at the skyline, now scarred by the thing hunting him. Fires broke out. Smoke rose. Alarms blared across Manhattan. The Avengers fought desperately in the distance, small flashes of light against a monster older than stars. Peter knew he couldn't keep running. Not forever. Not with millions of lives between him and that thing. He looked at the skyline, eyes burning behind the mask. "If it wants me," he whispered, "then I'll give it something to chase." The spell flickered again, this time intentionally. Peter stood tall on the rooftop, took one breath, and screamed. The sound tore from his lungs like a blazing signal, a flare in the dark. The creature froze, turned, locked onto him, and launched itself at the city with a force that cracked the night wide open. Peter braced himself, because this time, he wasn't running. He was leading it away, even if it cost him everything.